I know it's kind of hard to believe, but I have never been that good at basketball. When I first moved to the Midwest to serve at a church as their high school pastor, a church that was in southeast of the Twin Cities, one of the things that they used to do after all of the staff meetings is that all of the guys would get together and go play basketball. And so being the new kid on the block, I wanted to impress my new colleagues with my mad b-ball skills. So I would go and play with them. But to be honest with you, I thought at that time that I had mad basketball skills, but come to find out, the only real skill I had was to literally make people mad when I played basketball. And I only went to play with them a couple of times. Not sure whether it's because they stopped playing or they stopped telling me they were playing or where they were playing. But I only did it a couple of times. And every time I went, I was upsetting someone. It was usually the lead pastor where I would be missing an easy layup or an easy jump shot. Other times I was angering people like former staff members as I did one particular afternoon. I was standing on the outside of the three-point line, and Dave, the youth pastor that I replaced at that church, he was guarding me just a few feet inside the three-point line. And so I noticed as I had the ball that one of my teammates had gotten free under the basket, so I decided that I needed to get them the ball. And if I could pass them the ball, I knew that they would have an easy shot, and then I could celebrate the assist. And so I wound up for an overhead pass and launched it to my teammate underneath the basket. The only problem was Dave, who was about 6'5", and his big round head found its way between the ball and my completed pass. The basketball smashed right into Dave's face, square on his nose, and broke his very expensive glasses. I will never forget it. I hit him in the face, and his glasses went bing out to the sides. It was crazy. See, I told you, I got mad basketball skills. After that moment, they never asked me to play ever again, because when it comes to b-ball, JB ain't got no game. Now, it is embarrassing for a person to think they are killing it when in actuality they really have no game. It's embarrassing when that happens to a person, but I would submit to you that I think it's actually downright dangerous when a church or when a Christian thinks that what they are doing is a slam dunk for Jesus, but everyone around them on the outside knows that they are actually stinking up the court. You see, at Cedarbrook, our mission is to connect people to a growing relationship with Jesus. And what that means, essentially, is that we want to become a church that says that no game is not an option for us. That we don't want to be a church that has no game in our community, in our world. Instead, we want to be the exact opposite of that. What we want to be as individuals and as a church are a group of playmakers. Well, what is a playmaker, you might ask? Well, according to the dictionary, a playmaker is someone who makes plays, right? But they make plays that put their team in the best possible position to score. And I think one of the most famous playmakers on the planet was a guy by the name of Irving Johnson, also known as Magic, right? Magic Johnson. And they called him Magic, not because he carried a wand or he cast spells like Harry Potter, but because he was actually one of the greatest playmakers in NBA history. Unlike many of the other basketball greats, Magic was not known primarily for his scoring, but rather for his passing. And that's exactly what he did. He successfully served his team throughout his career by averaging over 11 assists every single game, making him the NBA's all-time leader in assists per game. So what made Magic such a great playmaker? Well, simply, he could see all of the opportunities that were around him at any particular moment, and then what he did is he found unique and creative ways to insert himself into those situations. You see, magic could make passes that nobody else could make because he could see potential plays that nobody else could see. And it didn't matter whether you were 5 feet away or 25 feet away, he would get you the ball so that you could score. And I would say to you that at Cedarbrook, we want to do the exact same thing. As a church, just like Kyle mentioned a little bit ago, we want to see the opportunities that are all around us, right where we are, but all around us around the world as well. At Cedarbrook, we want to be a church of playmakers who make plays, who play the game not like magic played it, but rather like Jesus played it. That we want to move like he moved, that we want to love like he loved, we want to serve like he served. We want to be playmakers who make plays just like Jesus did. And so since Jesus is our example of how to do that, the question then becomes, what does that look like? What does that look like in real life? And so over the past few weeks, what we've seen is that it looks like bless. It looks like bless, B-L-E-S-S. In this series, we've been looking at Jesus' command to love your neighbor as yourself through the lens of this word bless, B-L-E-S-S. To be a playmaker and impact our world like Jesus did, we have to begin with prayer. We start by listening to God. I listen to God, you listen to God, and we ask him, God, where are the opportunities around us right now? Where do you want me to go? How do you want to use me? Who is a neighbor? Who is someone in my path that I can love? We begin with prayer, and then we listen with care. We start listening to our neighbors, not listening with the intent to reply, but rather with the intent to understand them and where they are coming from their perspective. And then we eat together. To quote the great philosopher and theologian, the Pillsbury Doughboy, nothing says lovin' like something from the oven. And so this is our mandate when it comes to being like Jesus. Jesus ate with people all the time because he knew that part of eating with people is the sharing of stories. And as you share stories with someone, they move from being a stranger to becoming a neighbor. So to catch you up, that's B-L-E, and to discover the next letter in B-L-E-S-S, bless, the first S, we have to rewind the highlight reel about 2,000 years and take a look at one of our favorite playmakers, Jesus, and one of his most memorable assists of all time. And so if you have a Bible or a Bible app with you today, I want to invite you to open up with me to John chapter 13. John chapter 13. And this passage that we're going to look at today, I think is one of the most surprising and challenging passages in the whole Bible. In the whole Bible. And to truly understand the kind of play, the significance of the play that Jesus is making here, we have to take a closer look at, number one, what led up to this moment that we're about to look at, and then number two, what is going to take place immediately after it. So what happened before, and then what is going to happen next. Because in less than 24 hours after this event that we're going to look at, Jesus is going to be killed, and he knows it. The clock is ticking. We are in the final minutes of Jesus' life, and that puts a whole new perspective. It puts a weighty significance. It puts an urgent relevance on what he is about to say and what he is about to do. And that's where we pick up the story. In John chapter 13, starting in verse 1, it says this. Before the Passover celebration, Jesus knew that his hour had come to leave this world and return to his Father. Jesus knew he was about to die. And so he loved his disciples during his ministry on earth, and now he loved them to the very end. Now skip verse 2 to verse 3. Jesus knew that the Father had given him, look at this, had given him authority over everything, and that he had come from God and he would return to God. Now, one of the interesting things that is happening right before what I just read is that the disciples are together and they're arguing with one another about who of them is the greatest. Like, is it me? Is it you? I did this, you did that. Who on our team, who on our squad, who in our group is the greatest? And so as the disciples are arguing about who's the most important person, the real question is, who is really the most important person on their squad? Who's the real all-star on their team. And I'm guessing maybe it's the one who has authority over everything, right? Which, by the way, somehow, check this out, somehow got missed in this moment. Look at verse 4. It says, so he, Jesus, he got up from the table, this one who has authority over everything. Jesus got up from the table, he took off his robe, he wrapped a towel around his waist and poured water into a basin. Look at this. Then he who has authority over everything, then he began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with the towel he had around him. Now, if you were reading this story in the first century context in which it was written, you would immediately recognize that something here in this story is off. Something's just not right, because at a meal like this in this particular culture, a person of Jesus' stature, a famous rabbi, he would literally be considered the guest of honor at this kind of meal. He would receive preferential treatment. They would sit him at the head of the table. He would get to go through the buffet line before everybody else did. And especially this revered guest would be at the front of the line to get their feet washed before the meal. That's what was supposed to happen. But that's not what happened. That's not how Jesus played this game. He was the one who actually washed his followers' feet. And truth be told, there's still something about this situation that doesn't quite smell right. Not their feet, but there's something else behind the scenes. Because usually in the first century culture, whenever a room was rented for a meal like this, a servant would have been included in the price of the room to do the foot washing. But for whatever reason, that individual was not present at this particular moment. Nobody knows why. Maybe they went cheap and rented the room with a Groupon, and it wasn't included in the price of the Groupon, right? Or maybe because it was a group of men, adolescent men, usually they waited until the last minute to reserve the room, and no one was available at that time. Maybe that happened, but maybe, and I think maybe this is what went down, Jesus dismissed the servant because he wanted the opportunity to give his disciples one last lesson. Whatever the situation, that person wasn't present and nobody else wanted to do this dirty job. They all filed into the dinner. They all walked past the basin. They all thought to themselves, you know what, that job is beneath me. I'm above that job. That is a role that I should not do. That's a job for someone else. They said to themselves, you know what, I'm too good for this. Maybe somebody else should do it. Maybe Peter, he's the one that should do the foot washing thing because he's always running his mouth. Maybe Thomas, yeah, he should do it. All he does is doubt anyway. Or maybe let one of the disciples that nobody even knows who they are, let them do it. I mean, let Thaddeus or Bartholomew do it. Let those guys. Nobody knows who they are anyway. They're never going to write a book of the Bible. They should just be grateful they're even on the team, right? Nobody wanted it. Nobody wanted to do this dirty job because the job was lowly. The job was filthy. The job was demeaning. And if there was anybody in that room that day who should not have done this dirty work, it would have been Jesus. But yet he stoops and he does what needs to be done that nobody else wanted to do. The account says, then Jesus began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with the towel he had around him. I mean, this picture, imagine that scene. This is so shocking. This is so scandalous. We can't fully understand the significance of the all-star all of a sudden becoming the towel boy. But in this one action, it became history's game changer for how his followers should treat people. I mean, this monumental event is happening, and at the exact same time, it's all too weird for everybody that is in the room. In fact, the awkward silence is almost deafening because Peter screams out in verse 6. It says this, when Jesus came to Simon Peter to wash his feet, Peter said to him, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Like, are you really going to do this right now to me? But look how Jesus responds to him in verse 7. Jesus replied, "You don't understand now what I am doing, but someday you will." He's like, you got to let me do this. And it doesn't make any sense right now. You don't understand what I'm doing at this very moment, but hang in there. Let me finish the process, because when I'm done, you will know what this is all about. Jesus says to them, I know you don't completely get it. But trust me, what I'm doing, I am doing on purpose. You need to understand what I am teaching you, because in just a few weeks, I'm going to pass you the ball. I'm going to give the entire mission to you. And if you don't have this one particular lesson locked down in your own life, you won't understand what this entire movement is really all about. If you don't get this locked down, you're not going to be able to move the ball down the court. If you are going to love your neighbor as you love yourself in a way that makes an impact in the world for my name, you need to be able to do for other people what I'm doing for you right now. You need to be able to do what every great playmaker does, which is to see the opportunity and offer the assist. See the opportunity and offer the assist. So back to bless. B-L-E-S-S. Begin with prayer. Begin with prayer. Listen with care. Listen with care, and then eat together. And now serve with love. Jesus says that's what this mission is really all about. Serving each other with love. And when it comes to offering the assist, Jesus tells all of them and all of us, there ain't nothing that a playmaker won't do. There ain't nothing that a playmaker won't do, which, by the way, is exactly what he was trying to teach them in that moment. That's why he chose to do what he did for his disciples, why he decided to wash their feet. And in verse 12, it says, after washing their feet, he put on his robe again and he sat down and he asked, do you understand what I was doing? Do you understand the significance of this? Verse 13, he says, you call me teacher and Lord, and you're right, because that's exactly what I am. And since I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet as well. Verse 15, I have given you an example to follow. Do as I have done to you. That last line is so critical. I have given you an example to follow, Jesus says. And so do as I have done to you. Now, when I've read that over the years, this is the first time I've encountered this. I've read this many times. I always sort of imagined that the foot washing part of this story was a metaphor for a bigger serving action. Until something happened that I will never forget and has absolutely changed my life in the way that I understand this passage. Like Kyle had gone to Honduras, I was heading out to the Congo a few years ago for a longer mission trip of about 2.5 weeks. And I was going to be gone from my family for that whole time. And so as I often do whenever I leave for extended periods, like the day or two before, I'm like rushing like crazy to do all the things to try to set them up for success. Get all the laundry done, get all the dishes done, mow the grass, whatever needs to be done. I'm trying to hustle, get it done. So it's the night before we leave, and I'm exhausted from trying to prep for this trip. And so I'm laying on the bed, just kind of spread out, fans blowing on me, I'm in heaven, right? So I'm just kind of chilling there, just exhausted. And my daughter, Gianna, comes up to me, and she says to me, Dad, your feet are nasty. No joke. And I'm like, I know, babe. That's what happens when you get older, right? She's like, no, seriously, they're really cracked, and they're really dry. Do you care if I wash them and put some lotion on them? And I'm like, sure, babe, go ahead. And so that's what she did. Like I'm laying on the bed, my feet are hanging over the edge. She goes, she gets a towel, she gets some soap, she gets a bowl of water, she washes my feet, and then she starts rubbing lotion on them because my feet are cracked and they're so nasty, right? And so that happened, and as it's happening, I got tears going down my eye onto the pillow, like what's happening here? It's just this beautiful moment. And a couple months ago, I asked her why she did that. So I knew I was preaching on this passage. I asked her why she did that. And she said, Dad, I did it because you needed it, because your feet were so bad. And I knew that Jesus did it, so I decided that I could do it as well. And my brain about exploded, because that's the point of the playmaker. She was a playmaker in that moment. And what she taught me and what he's teaching them is that there is no role too simple for the playmaker. There is no job that is too menial for the playmaker. There is no action that is so insignificant that a playmaker will not do it. They see the need and offer the assist. They see the opportunity and they step up and step in to help. I love how Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. described it. He said it this way. He said, everybody can be great. Why? Well, because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love. And Jesus says that to the people. And he says that those of you who are willing to do this, to live this kind of life, if you're willing to do this, you will become the happiest people on the planet. That's what he says. Look at verse 17. He says, now that you know these things, now that you know how this kingdom thing works, now you know that when you see an opportunity, you make the assist. Now that you know that, God will bless you for not knowing it, not just knowing it, but God will bless you for doing it. Now that you know these things, God will bless you for doing them. And friends, that is what Jesus was trying to show us when he picked up this basin and towel and dropped to his knees. I mean, think about it. The creator of the universe touched nasty, stinky, filthy feet to show us that there ain't nothing that a playmaker won't do. And that we serve with love. We don't serve with an expectation, or we don't serve with an agenda. We don't serve with the hope of receiving something in return. We serve with love like he did for us. The goal is simply to see an opportunity and offer the assist, no strings attached. And so the question that I want to leave us with today is simply this. What humble, head-turning thing can you do to serve someone with love? What humble, head-turning thing can you do to serve someone with love? And as you think about the opportunities that you are able to assist in, it might be about taking a coworker who's overworked and obviously stressed, taking that coworker out to lunch. Or if you're working remotely, sending them a gift card for them to just kind of get away and take a break. Maybe that's what the opportunity to assist looks like for you. Or maybe for you, you could even go and mow your neighbor's overgrown lawn. Or you can make one of your kids mow your neighbor's overgrown lawn. Maybe that's what the offering and assist looks like. Or maybe it's not out there. Maybe it's in here. If you're married or you have a family, maybe it means to start serving the ones that live under your own roof, finding opportunities to offer the assist for even them. Or even in this house, in this place. Some of you, it might mean taking a step and signing up to serve in one of the ministries of Cedarbrook. Seeing the opportunity, offering the assist, serving with love for our neighbors. Now, as I can read your minds, as I'm prone to do, I know some of you are thinking, hey, James, I love it. You're funny. That's good. Nice element. Way to tie it in. Appreciate it, right? Sounds great. But my neighbor, you don't know them, and they don't deserve to be served. In fact, if you knew them, you would agree that they're sort of the worst, right? And I get it. I totally get it. In fact, a few houses ago, I had a neighbor, and I had a tree that grew up, a big oak tree that went across, and it would drop leaves into his yard, right? And I've got video of this. What he would do is he would either mow the leaves across the street back into my yard, or he would pile them up and dump them back in my yard. I get it. I get what neighbors can be like, but what I'd say to you is simply this. Did Jesus' disciples deserve to be served? I mean, he knew the future of the feet he was washing. Those 24 feet were about to dash for cover. They were about to run away and disown Jesus as he was arrested. One of them even betrayed him. But what we see is Jesus showing up and showing us that we don't wash people's feet because they deserve it, but we do it because they need it. And because whether you realize it or not at the time, it will be a game changer. Maybe for them, but definitely for you. And friends, this is the pathway for Cedarbrook to make no game not an option here. In fact, I want to leave you with a prayer. And I want to ask, what would it look like for you if you prayed this prayer every day this week? I called it, when I wrote it, the Playmaker's Prayer. And it goes simply like this. God, give me eyes to see, opportunities in front of me, so that I never miss an offer to assist. What if before your feet hit the floor every day this week, you pause and ask God to open your eyes to see the opportunities that he's going to put in front of you so that you can make the plays that he's calling you to make? What would that be like? Let's pray. God, we thank you for this moment, and we stand in awe of the fact that Jesus modeled in a very memorable way what it looks like to love our neighbors, how we serve them with love. And so, God, I pray that you would give us eyes to see all of the opportunities in front of them, in front of me, so that we never, ever miss this offer to assist. And we pray all these things in Jesus' name. And all God's people said, amen.